Stepping into the world of real estate, well, it means navigating countless decisions, right? And a lot of them put you at a crossroads.
Mhm.
One path might seem easier, maybe even more lucrative short term. It's legal, sure, but there's that little voice, isn't there, asking, is it actually right?
That distinction right there
Yeah.
between what's just permissible by law and what is truly ethically right, that's the absolute heart of it.
Yeah.
And in real estate, I mean, you're dealing with someone's biggest asset, often their life savings.
Yeah.
That distinction, it isn't just important,
Yeah.
it's everything.
Absolutely. And that's exactly why we're diving deep today into this stack of sources you brought us. We're really focusing on ethical conduct, specifically in California real estate.
That's the plan.
Exploring what it means to operate, not just, legally, but with real profound integrity.
Yeah, and our goal here, it isn't just to run through a checklist of rules like from the NAR Code of Ethics or the DRE guidelines. It's more about understanding the spirit behind them.
The spirit. Okay.
The bedrock of integrity that lets you build a respected, sustainable career, something you can actually be proud of. It's really about that foundation of trust, built one transaction at a time.
The bedrock of integrity. I really like that phrase. So where do we start laying this foundation? What's the cornerstone piece here?
Well, a critical starting point has to be the National Association of Realtors Code of Ethics. Think of it as the professional and ethical compass for realtors.
Okay.
And what's really fascinating about it, and the sources point this out, is its history. It was adopted way back in 1913.
Wow, 1913.
Yeah, it was groundbreaking. One of the very first, maybe the first, comprehensive ethical codes from a business group in the U.S. Yeah. That tells you something, right? This commitment. It's not new. It's been central to how the profession sees itself for over a century.
That history, that longevity, it really says a lot. And I noticed right in the preamble, even before they get into the specific articles, there's this incredibly powerful statement, sets the whole tone.
It really does. And that preamble, it's not just fluff. It declares that realtors have a grave social responsibility and a patriotic duty.
A patriotic duty.
Yeah, a patriotic duty requiring them to maintain integrity and honor. That language just elevates the work, doesn't it? From a simple transaction to something that actually serves the public good. It demands a higher standard than just, making a deal. It implies that acting with integrity, well, it's not just good for your business. It's actually essential for the community, for the economy.
Wow, okay, that definitely reframes things. So it's not just professional standards, it's almost a civic contribution. And this code, then it drills down into specifics, duties.
Exactly. Building on that powerful preamble, the code lays out specific articles, duties to clients, duties to the public, even duties to other realtors.
Okay.
And these aren't just like suggestions, they're actionable principles. And importantly for NAR members, upholding, this isn't a one-off thing. There's mandatory ethics training every 4 years.
Right. Ongoing.
It's a continuous process,
Yeah.
learning and recommitting.
Okay, so that's the professional association side, the ethical compass. But then we have the state, the regulatory body, the California Department of Real Estate. They translate some of this into hard rules, right?
Precisely. The DRE is the state watchdog. They enforce real estate law. They do audits, investigations. And the sources we looked at give a pretty clear picture of where real estate pros most often stumble. Areas where applying ethics and rules becomes really critical. And these aren't obscure little things. They're often fundamental failures.
So where do people most commonly get into trouble with the DRE? What are the big red flags they're watching for?
Trust funds. Consistently near the top of the list. Handling client money demands absolute precision,
Yeah.
transparency.
Makes sense.
The DRE regulations mentioned in the sources get super specific because trust in handling money is just paramount. It's not enough to just have the money. You need meticulous records, like Regulation 2831 on columnar records so you can track every penny in and out.
Okay, detailed tracking.
Yeah, and 2831.1 on separate beneficiary records, knowing exactly whose money is whose. And 2831.2, the monthly reconciliation, making sure it all balances perfectly.
Wow.
There are even rules about who can touch those funds. Only licensed folks, properly bonded individuals.
So it's all about creating this crystal clear, auditable trail for every single dollar. No question about where it is or who it belongs to. That level of detail. It isn't just bureaucracy, is it? It's about preventing commingling, showing total accountability, foundational trust, like you said.
It absolutely is. And another huge area, misrepresentation.
Okay.
Now, this isn't just telling an outright lie that's obviously covered by law, Section 20176A.
Yeah.
But Critically, it also includes the failure to disclose material facts.
Ah, the sin of omission, leaving things out.
Exactly. If you know something important about the property or the deal, something the other party really should know to make an informed decision, you have a duty to tell them.
That can feel a bit fuzzier to some people, maybe. Less direct than an active lie, but the impact can be just as bad.
It can, and the guidance the sources offer, drawing from the DRE perspective, it's powerful and simple. When in doubt, disclose, and do it in writing. When in doubt, disclose.
That single principle, if you apply it consistently, it can protect everyone involved. And it reinforces your commitment to being transparent. It shifts your mindset from, what do I have to say, to what should the other person really know?
That's incredibly practical advice. When in doubt, put it out there and document it. Got it. Any other common DRE pitfalls we should touch on?
Well, licensing status is fundamental. Obvious, maybe, but crucial. You have to maintain an active current license, Section 10177A.
Right.
And tied to that, the sources flag issues around criminal history. Failing to disclose past convictions on your license application, that's a serious violation under Section 480C.
Okay.
And also engaging in conduct after you get licensed that leads to convictions substantially related to real estate that falls under 10177VA. These rules are there to make sure the profession's gatekeeping has integrity, that people holding licenses meet a certain standard. Right, because the license itself is supposed to signify a level of public trust. So these specific DRE rules, they might seem like just detailed compliance points, but they're really the practical guardrails, protecting the public, upholding the profession's reputation. They translate those broader ethical ideas into daily actions.
Exactly. They are the how behind that grave social responsibility we talked about. And sitting right at the absolute core of your relationship with the client, really underpinning almost everything we've discussed, is this concept of fiduciary duty.
Fiduciary duty. Okay, yeah, we hear that term a lot. Can you really break down what that means in this context based on our sources?
Sure. One source defines a fiduciary pretty clearly. Someone legally bound to act in the best interest of their client.
Legally bound.
Yes, this isn't just like a strong suggestion. It's a legal and ethical mandate. And crucially, it means you have to place your client's interest above your own.
Above your own.
Above your own. Your personal gain, your convenience, maybe your desire for a quick commission. All that has to take a backseat to ensuring your client's goals and well-being come first. You are their trusted advisor, acting on their behalf with their property, their financial future on the line.
Placing their interest above your own, that really demands a level of selflessness, commitment. It goes way beyond just good customer service. It's a heavy responsibility.
It is.
And that high bar, that's exactly where navigating potential conflicts of interest becomes so incredibly vital, isn't it?
Absolutely. Conflict of interest pops up whenever your personal interests, or maybe duties you owe to someone else, could potentially interfere with your ability to act solely, completely in your client's best interest.
Right.
And these situations, they're tricky because they can creep up even when you have the best intentions.
The sources gave some pretty vivid examples from other fields that really highlight the potential danger, even subtle conflicts.
They did. Think about the business consulting world. The Enron scandal, right? That became a classic case study. Arthur Andersen was both Enron's auditor and a highly paid consultant.
Ah, okay.
So their interest in keeping that lucrative consulting gig arguably compromised their objectivity as auditors. Or think about consulting firms that advise governments on regulations and then turn around and help clients navigate those same regulations.
I see the potential issue there.
Yeah, it creates a potential conflict where they could benefit from the very complexity they may be helped create or understand better than anyone else. It really underscores that it's not just actual conflicts, but even the appearance of impropriety that can just shred trust. One source really hit that point, drawing on examples outside business, too.
The appearance is key.
Yeah.
If it even looks like there might be a conflict, even if you think there isn't one, it can damage your credibility. How does this translate into specific real estate situations?
Okay, a classic one. Giving an opinion of value on a property. Standard of practice 11-1 in the NAR Code is clear. If you have any personal stake in that property, maybe you own it, maybe you're related to the owner, maybe you're planning to buy it yourself, you have to disclose that interest up front.
Makes sense.
You just can't provide an objective opinion if you personally stand to gain from a certain valuation outcome, unless everyone knows about your potential bias. Transparency is everything there.
Right. You can't wear two hats, objective advisor and potential beneficiary, without telling the client exactly what's going on. What about dealing with clients who are already working with another agent? That seems like it could get messy, potential conflict, or at least stepping on toes.
It's a very clear area in the code, actually. It really boils down to respecting professional boundaries and the client's existing relationships. The 2025 code is quite specific. If a client has an exclusive agreement with another realtor, your dealings about that property or their needs as a buyer or tenant should generally go through their representative or broker, not directly to the client.
Okay, so no end runs.
Exactly. Now, there are exceptions, sure, like if the client contacts you first or if their agent consents. But the core principle is, don't interfere with that established relationship.
So you can't just bypass the agent they're already committed to and try to swoop in.
Precisely. And the code adds another proactive step. Before you provide any substantive services to a potential client, you must ask them if they're already party to an exclusive representation agreement.
Ah, ask up front.
Yeah, that simple question helps avoid accidentally stepping into a conflict or undermining a colleague's relationship. And look, this isn't just a rule to avoid getting fined. It's about showing respect for clients, for fellow professionals. It contributes to the overall health of the industry.
This feels like where that idea of integrity beyond just the rules really comes into play. Avoiding conflicts isn't just ticking a box. It's actively choosing the path that puts the client first, upholds the profession's dignity, even if it means maybe more work for you or slower process. It's essential for actually living that fiduciary duty.
It's the embodiment of putting their interests first. Absolutely. And this consistent commitment to integrity, this bedrock we talked about at the start, that's what truly builds a lasting, respected, and honestly fulfilling career in real estate.
So how does really living by these principles translate into, tangible success, reputation?
Well, honesty, transparency, putting the client first, that directly builds the deepest kind of trust. And when clients feel genuinely informed, understood, prioritized, they develop loyalty.
Right.
As one source on sales ethics highlighted, transparency isn't just about revealing problems. It's about keeping clients involved and feeling confident all the way through.
Reduces their anxiety, I bet.
Totally. It strengthens the relationship during the transaction, which can be stressful. And critically, it leads to referrals. Repeat business. Your reputation precedes you, right?
Yeah.
And a reputation built on solid integrity. That attracts clients who value that more than anything.
So integrity, it isn't just a fancy word for honesty then.
The Forbes source made that distinction really well, I thought.
Yeah.
Honesty is definitely part of it, yeah. Telling the truth. But integrity is broader, more profound, maybe. It's about wholeness, consistency, honoring your word, making sure your actions align with your values, constantly striving to be better. That source presents it not just as a nice-to-have trait, but a fundamental must-have for anyone looking for sustainable success and real influence.
Being the same person, ethically, no matter who's watching.
Exactly, regardless of the situation.
And that Forbes piece, it described improving integrity as, what was it, something like an endless job, a mountain with no top. It's not a destination you reach and check off. It's ongoing.
Absolutely. It requires regular self-reflection, a commitment to constant improvement. It's a journey, really, of aligning your professional actions more and more closely with those core values.
But what happens when, despite all the guidelines and maybe good intentions, things do go wrong? How are these standards actually enforced?
Yeah, good question. There are pretty robust systems in place to uphold these standards and deal with failures. At the NAR level, there's a formal professional standards process.
Okay.
Complaints get reviewed first by a grievance committee. If they see potential for a violation, it goes to a formal hearing before a professional standards committee.
And what can happen then?
Sanctions can range pretty widely. Warnings, fines, mandatory education, even suspension or termination of membership. And the standard of proof they use in those ethics hearings is high work. It has to be clear, strong, and convincing.
Okay, so a serious process.
Yeah.
And the DRE, the state, has its own enforcement power too.
Oh, absolutely. Through those audits and investigations we mentioned earlier, the DRE can take disciplinary action directly against someone's real estate license, and that can obviously have career-ending consequences.
Yeah.
One of our sources even referenced a DRE dishonest dealing scenario. It was a really heartbreaking, real-world story about an agent who defrauded over 100 home buyers, took their deposits.
Oh, wow. That's awful.
It starkly illustrates the severe impact when integrity just completely breaks down. So these enforcement mechanisms, yeah, they could feel punitive sometimes, but ultimately, they're there to protect the public. and to maintain the credibility and integrity of the entire profession for everyone's benefit, especially the vast majority of agents who are committed to ethical practice.
It's about weeding out the bad apples who undermine the public trust that everyone else relies on. Okay, so to kind of wrap this up, we've gone from the philosophical foundation in the NAR Code's preamble
Right, the why.
to the practical rules and common pitfalls from the DRE.
The how and what not to do.
The critical weight of fiduciary duty, the constant vigilance needed for conflicts of interest, how living these principles actually builds a strong career, and finally, the systems in place for accountability when things go wrong.
Right. It paints a pretty comprehensive picture, I think, showing that ethical real estate practice, it's really not about just memorizing a rule book. It's about cultivating this deep-seated commitment to integrity that drives every single action. It means truly upholding your fiduciary duty, being proactive about spotting and avoiding conflicts, embracing transparency even when it's uncomfortable, and consistently choosing the right path, not just the technically legal one.
And that commitment, it's not just about your own personal success, is it? It's about contributing positively to the trust the public places in the entire real estate profession.
Exactly.
It enhances your own reputation, builds those lasting relationships, and lets you have a career that's truly sustainable, fulfilling, where you know you're making a positive impact. It's the core of being a professional you can actually be proud of.
It's how you move beyond just, facilitating transactions to becoming a truly trusted advisor, a valuable part of your community.
So, thinking about all this, what does it mean for you listening today? As you go about your work, facing those daily decisions, those crossroads, beyond just checking off the compliance boxes, how will you embody the spirit of integrity? How will you make sure your actions don't just meet the rules, but truly reflect the profound trust placed in you, contributing positively and building the reputation you really aspire to?